My name's Chris.
And I'm Kristie.
This is the Washing Up Podcast.
Gluten Tag, and welcome to Bread Week.
Oh no, glue! Gav, I hope you didn't hear that, and I hope if you did hear that, Gav, that you're with company and friends that can get you through this gluten time. So sorry about that, Gav. Randomly springing gluten on him.
It's not like I'm trying to... Yes, I'm trying to get all you celiacs and gluten intolerant people out there through the waves of podcasting. It is the time for the rise of the gluten.
Oh, that pause.
You should see how our plans develop.
Oh no. Anyway, we'll move on. So,
Going to prove our worth and dominate you all.
Were you reading the game card? Anyway, so obviously it is Bread Week, and we've got, Bread Week is one of the cornerstone weeks of Bakeoff. Mm-hmm. Now, last season, Bread Week was probably the standout episode of that series. I thought Bread Week last year was
perfection.
Absolute perfection.
Yeah.
This year...
It's just Bread Week.
It was Bread Week. It happened. We'll see. We'll get into it a little bit more.
You can't reach the dizzying heights of last year, and I think it's unfair to kind of, because there was some good shit.
Yeah,
good stuff.
Like it's okay.
Good stuff.
It's okay to hit creamy middles.
It is. It's fine. You know.
So anyway,
we don't need always dizzying heights. Otherwise, you don't appreciate the dizzying heights, and they just become heights. You don't get any dizziness, and you're just like, well,
that's not dizzy stuff.
Yeah.
Anyway. I'm going to start with the game card.
Are you?
Because damn it if I didn't decide this week that we were drinking. Because I have had a couple of hits here and there. But we've been a bit more spotty than we usually are.
Look,
so this week, I ran at it.
I just want to caveat that the Washing Up promotes responsible drinking. And we hope that, every second drink was that of water or maybe some electrolytes. Maybe even a nice cup of tea.
Now we've been responsible. Let's see how I got you all blotto. So, Baker forgets an ingredient. I mean, do we want to count not proving a second time as forgetting an ingredient?
No, that was a choice.
It was a choice. What a choice. Bread puns. Now look, even if you only drank every time we hit the bread puns, you would have been tipsy before they announced what the signature was.
Yeah.
Right? We had 4 of them before they announced their signature. They walked from the doors to the front.
Yep.
And we had 4 bread puns.
Mm-hmm. And on top of that, I just love the idea that Cattle is now just going to open up a bakery nursery.
Oh, that could be fun.
Just a bread nursery for all your bready baby needs. So that's what babies eat, don't they?
Bread, exactly. Yeah. They're bandits for bread.
Mm-hmm.
I turned my back for a minute. Disaster. No, because the main disaster in terms of that sort of thing, Laurent was looking directly at it when he did it, so he knew.
It happened.
Under overproofed bread. Well, there was a lot of those.
Jesus, there was some that just got to the proofing level and that was it.
Yeah,
there wasn't even any baking. I think
it's a big, under overproof bread, and a couple of them did it at the same time.
Yes.
That's a skill. Mm-hmm. Underproving and overproving, and in the same time.
They were wombling free.
Underproved, overproved, wombling free. Anyway, Matcha wasn't hit, and thank you for that, because I really appreciated a week off from that one.
Oh, didn't we all?
Someone warned you might overwork the gluten. No. Now, yes, we did get that.
Oh,
so Neil was very specific about working the glutens and taking the air and overworking. You don't want to work. So okay. I am counting all of the stuff about working the air out and working the glutens. You don't want to work the stretch out. That's the gluten. I am counting that as a drink.
Okay.
Baker helps another baker. There were a few examples of that. Reem did a really good job helping out. Mm-hmm. Laura did a really good job of helping out. So we got a couple of examples there where bakers were helping other bakers. Yep. Innuendos. Yeah, there were a couple.
Look, I think they were just visual innuendos tonight. But you tell us the innuendos you spotted, and I'll tell you all the things that look like vaginas.
Yeah, well, we'll get to that. We'll get to that when we get into the fugas.
That's what she said.
I mean, they did also do the one about when they talked about Gav's bake, and did he call it one night stand? Baker has never heard of the technical. Now, I got the feeling from Reem's face that she'd never heard of the technical before. That's an insinuation, and I will accept it if you had a drink for that one. Mm-hmm. However, even though it wasn't the technical, I think we all have to drink with the idea that Adam didn't know what a bread centerpiece was. Because I would have thought that it's fairly self-explanatory, a bit like Nat last week talking about how self-explanatory that was.
Yes.
A bread centerpiece. Well, I've never heard of a bread centerpiece. Have you seen Bakeoff? This is a staple. I mean, this is a staple.
Oh, Adam, darling.
Adam, you're outing yourself. You've never watched it, love. You've never watched it.
Oh.
He might have actually... I don't actually know the answer to that.
But you know what? That would be lovely. Like, imagine, right?
About the show?
Like, you'd never seen the show, and now you've got, like, seasons and seasons of beauty and awesomeness to go back and watch. Well,
Natalie was talking about that in the interview from last week. When she talked about the fact that she hadn't really watched Bakeoff, so now she's got the chance to go back and discover. And by the way, just an update for people, seasons 3 and 4 of Canadian have now hit Foxtel.
Yeah, you get on that.
So 1 and 2 were shown on Foxtel, 3 and 4 are on Binge, and I cannot recommend those highly enough. They are superb seasons of Bakeoff, and I really... Don't go back and watch British. Go and watch 3 and 4 of Canadian.
And you know what I'd do if you were doing that? Listen to our podcast to accompany it.
Exactly.
You'll get some interviews.
You've got interviews with those bakers.
You get more anecdotes.
Yeah, you get to hear us say the word felching a lot more.
Tons more like tangents.
And you get to hear us call the building by another name.
It's the Pavilion there in Canada.
It's the Pavilion in Canada.
And also you'll learn a bit of Newfie slang.
You will. Kristie loves working Newfie slang into the podcast. So, and then we have...
I won't put it in the Australian one, though. I just say that for the Canadians. Because they appreciate that.
And then you get a whole...
They're like, oh, someone's getting our culture.
And then you get a whole run of the Virgies afterwards, because we've done Canadian Virgies all over the place. So, you can enjoy those far more substantially. So, we've got lots of more podcasts. You can go and do that. So, I would do it now, but we'll also mention at the end of the episode. If you're liking what you're hearing... Like,
share, subscribe, hit that like button.
Smash that like button.
Smash that like
Punch
button.
it in the face. If you're only on YouTube, because the others don't really have a like button as much.
Really, just share it.
Yeah, just share it around, please.
Share love.
Look, it really helps us out, and I hate being these people. You hear those people on podcasts going, oh, here they go, talking about... No, you have no idea how much it actually helps us out when people share this.
Yeah.
Because we get a lot more positive feedback, and the more positive feedback and the more interaction we get, the more we can do.
We run on, gratuitous compliments.
We really do. And, there's no more gratuitous compliment than people listening to the podcast.
Exactly.
But now you're also learning why one of our favourite reviews of all time said, why does the podcast go for an hour and 40 minutes when the show only goes for 45? And the answer is, you're welcome. More of us. So let's get into it.
Yeah.
So let's get into Bread Week. I did like that little joke, as you said, Cal with the loaves of bread, and, Nat's whole, you can be whatever you want to be.
They could have taken it a very dark turn.
They really could have.
Bled Week.
Oh.
Go some, Gothic style horror.
Well, working blood into the bakes.
Yes.
Hello, Nerman.
That's true.
Not the first mention of Nerman we're going to have tonight either. So, Felicity starts by suggesting that bread is life, and we've talked about this before, but, it's carbs. It's beautiful, beautiful, crusty carbs.
Yeah, bread's good.
It's good?
It's good, It's very useful for
It's not football, which is life.
Yeah, football is life. Thank you, Denny Rojas. But, bread's good.
Now, Laurent skirted around saying, this is my week, by saying everything else about bread. And he was like, I love eating it. I love making it. He didn't say it's my week and I'm really good at it, but he basically said everything about bread he loves, and he was involved in the process from making it to eating it. Now, we get the start of the puns. Mm-hmm. The hello, everybody! And what I appreciated about that wasn't so much the joke, but have you ever seen Rachel Koo lose her shit that much?
No, it's like she's never heard a bread-based pun in her life.
Rachel was surprised. Yeah, she was surprised by the bread-based puns.
Or maybe she was just excited that it was one that was a bit of a modern twist on it. It wasn't just a usual, British, a bun in the oven and soggy bottom and all that stuff.
It wasn't all the normal stuff you'd expect. You're going to rise to the challenge. You've got to prove yourself. All of those sorts of things. Something crusty. It was a thoughtful bread pun.
Yeah.
So the signature. The signature was a sweet bread. It must be yeasted dough. 2.5 hours.
My only disappointment is someone didn't actually use sweetbreads in their sweetbread.
Look, I mean, it's probably a good thing for the people eating it, but
Yeah, but like technically, wouldn't pate be sweetbread because it's
I mean,
made
it
with
is.
liver? I mean, I just think that we're missing a trick if we're not getting more offal into into Bakeoff.
Look, if we're not here for more offal, then what are we doing, everybody?
Yeah, like they always talk about this snout to tail like
Baking, cooking world.
now, like bringing into the Bakeoff show.
So, in other words, what you're saying is next year for Bread Week, you want
Yeah.
the signature to be little toast squares with pate?
Yeah, and I'm invited along just to
And
try
you're just
stuff.
invited along as a special guest
I don't want
judge.
to be on. I don't want to be on the telly. I just want to be on the side reaping the benefits.
Yeah, okay.
But then are we then going to hit what happened in British with Taco Week? Is it all going to be about the filling and not the?
Oh, there's more than remember. It was started with Burger Week, and we go from there. And Australia did Burger Week. Australia was the first. Look, we give British a lot of shit, and we do, and rightly so. It deserves it. But we did remember the Australian Burger Week. We brutalised that thing a few years ago.
Yeah, we did.
Because it was all about the meat, and it was all about the fat. They didn't mention the bun at all.
No.
So anyway, everyone's capable of mistakes, but everyone's capable of better. Learn from your mistakes, British. Anyway, how do we always manage to bring it back to bashing British? I'm happy we do, but I'm wondering how we manage it. Anyway, Neil... Well, Sandra, first of all... We'll start with Sandra, because she was worrying about being in the middle of the pack. No, you're still in the period of time, Sandra, where you want to be in the middle of the pack.
Yeah, you don't want to be the leader of the pack because we've all heard that song.
But apart from being the leader of the pack and then, Johnny running off, the other big problem, of course, with being the leader of the pack at this point in time is by week 5 and 6, they start saying, I expect more from you. And the second they start expecting more from you, you're in trouble.
Yeah.
So, what you want to do is not underperform, but just cruise, just do things that are very
You want to
safe.
be solid.
Yeah, you don't want to be in danger every week because eventually they'll get sick of you and throw you out. But you don't also want to be up the top all the time because if you're at the top all the time, there's expectations and you're not necessarily being judged the same way.
You ended up being that gifted child whose ADHD and hyperfocus worked to push you to doing awesomely in primary school when you got to do shit like, I don't know, recreate a whole diorama about Mount Vesuvius, and you're really fucking interested in Pompeii and all that shit. And so the teachers automatically think you're really intelligent and study really hard when really you just really like that particular subject. And then I'm going too far again, aren't I?
Way too far.
Okay, but
Anyway.
but all the gifted kids out there with ADHD are nodding along.
Oh, right now they're all with you.
Yeah.
I like the idea that we are a podcast specifically listened to by ADHD kids.
Yep. That's what we're here
We're
for.
big. We're big with the ADHD kids. Anyway, Neil at this point said, whenever I bake a loaf, I just give it away.
Hi, Neil.
First of all, hi. Yeah, hi. How you going, Neil? We love you. You're amazing.
Just give us bread.
Secondly, and far more importantly, never start a bakery because that's not a good business model.
No.
As I believe Homer Simpson once said, money can be exchanged for goods and services.
That's a pretty good model there.
Now,
Not so much to giving it away for free.
yeah, no.
Unless, of course, you're a billionaire.
Then
and,
it's work. Do it by all means.
do it. Give all the bread away and give all the money away.
Yeah,
Don't
exactly.
build rickety subs. Anyway,
Yeah, give all the money away before you. No, anyway, Alona. So Alona was going with a baklava babka, otherwise known, of course, on this podcast as panettone. But
I do feel like it would be the bread of choice when you're bringing peace to the Middle East.
yeah, baklava babka,
Yes.
or a baklava panettone, either or. Now,
That's if the Middle East and Italy were having a
yes,
bit of
of
a
conflict. So Alona said that she would put baklava. She puts baklava into anything that she can. Now, Alona, I want to test you on this because I don't think this should. You didn't limit it to baking, so I want to see you work baklava into everyday meals, like across the board. Breakfast a little bit easier. Lunches and dinners, fascinating. I can't wait to see it. Sunday roast baklava.
corn baklava, like cornflakes baklava. Oh, Sunday baklava. Either on a roast. What would you put it on? What kind of meat would you put it on? Or would you do like a veggie meat?
Honey.
Ooh, lamb.
Yeah, honey, lamb.
Pistachio,
lamb.
lamb.
Maybe lamb.
Or,
So,
Oh, it's probably very culturally insensitive, but on like a ham. Like a honey glazed ham.
I would do it on the lamb, and I would
Ham
do it...
liver.
I'd do it on the lamb, and I would encrust it and do it as a baklava crust on a lamb.
Yeah, or you know the bird's
You're
nest?
welcome. I just want to put it out there. You're welcome. And I expect...
I know what's going to be happening in our kitchen soon.
It will be.
Oh, Jesus fucking
Hey,
Christ.
I respond to your challenges. I made you heather-based shortbread.
And wasn't I correct?
You were. So
And
I'm going to be
listen
correct.
now listening to my response about a baklava
And I'm going to be correct on this one. Anyway.
Oh God, I don't want to challenge you.
Bad
Go
luck.
along
Too
with it,
late.
Kristie.
It's too late. It's done. Neil. So Neil had cinnamon and sultana. Now, obviously, Rachel warned about the balance of flavours. Malt, cinnamon swirl, vanilla or cream icing. So potentially a lot of sweetness there. Balanced out by the fact that Neil is using one of the tools of the devil in sultanas.
They're just grapes. But instead of
They're
becoming
not
delicious,
just grapes.
But instead of becoming delicious wine, they've become
horrible shells. Like, look, if you're a grape...
I could have been wine.
If you're a grape and you have a pathway that leads to delicious wine, and you instead choose to become a sultana, you get everything that's coming to
the
you.
grapes have a choice.
I think they make
don't.
decisions. Sentient grapes.
What are you going to be when you grow up? Well, I'm not going to be wine. Sultana it is.
I want to laze about in the sun chair all day. I'm a sultana. Anyway, Laura. So Laura was going with a cinnamon and cardamom crown with candied walnuts. Now, this is where we get the explanation for beginners, where Natalie Tran gets to ask the questions that beginners would ask in terms of, so what's proofing? Where do you get that? Now, this also will start the debate online of proofing or proving. By the way, we've done this before on the Canadian podcast. We looked it up, and the answer is yes.
Just
both
choose.
are appropriate. You can
Choose
use
what you
proving.
like.
You can use proving. You can use proofing. It's officially a proofing draw, but proving has become commonplace as well, and both are perfectly acceptable. So put down those weapons. There's no need to go to war with each other over that. But I did like the fact that, first of all, she explained why you prove it, how you prove it, and then pointed to where it stayed, which was a lovely smeg draw.
Yes.
Because the branding doesn't get enough focus on TV. Got a couple of good shots of Lurpak in this episode too.
Oh, look, I think they did a really nice, subtle job of bringing in the sponsors. So we've got the Murray River Salt.
Which they show frequently on their... Yeah.
Yeah, the Lurpak was there. The eggs, the Sunny...
The eggs were there.
Sunny
Yep.
Farm eggs, whatever it is. What else did I spy with my little eye?
Everything is quite subtle.
Some Herbies was in there.
Everything is quite subtle.
Yeah.
Except Smeg, which hits you over the head like Gav's bowl nearly did later on in the episode when it came out of the mixer.
Look, there's been a lot of people who've been hit with Smeg over the years.
Anyway, moving.
But I think this is the most pleasant way of being hit with Smeg.
Anyway.
It hasn't hit your eye. And you know what? They're sponsoring Bakeoff, so I'm here for it.
Anyway, moving on. So, yeah, Laura pointed beautifully to the Smeg
you
branded
dirty
draw.
pervs laughing.
Yeah.
I love yous.
Laura pointed to the
You're my
Smeg
people.
branded draw and was like, that was when they talked about, so it's living in a loft apartment and it's about to move into a house.
Yeah.
That bread can't afford that rent. Anyway.
You know how
Not in
much,
this economy.
Can I just say how much that proofing draw would go for as a rental
Sydney?
space in Sydney?
$850.
That's a day.
Yeah. So so that's actually a really good question. So after you've listened to the podcast, and we're going to throw these in a little bit more too, just to see who's listening. In the comments under the podcast, how much do you reckon the proofing draw under the oven would go for as a rental property in Sydney per week?
I mean, okay, we can do it in two areas, Inner West and Western Sydney. Like,
Inner West completely.
the shit, that's me. Anyway, I'm not.
Inner West. Anyway, so yeah, you know, we're talking about...
capitalism.
Yeah, we're talking about how much would the Smeg proving draw go for if you put it up on a Sydney rental exchange per week?
Also, what do you think would last longer diving down to the Titanic?
Oh, no. I knew you were going to want to work one of those in anyway. This is a proof, by the way, of when we do the podcast. So, Laurent. Now, poor Laurent, he had a day. So, Laurent,
Yes.
he did a single proof.
Yeah,
Now,
because why do two?
Now, he said, I normally do 2 to 3, but there's not enough time, so I'm only going to try 1. Now, there's a couple of points here. First of all, Darren and Rachel both said to him 2, and he went 1. And they were like, And then, secondly, and far more importantly, if you're doing a bread that you don't have time to prove twice, maybe don't do the bread.
Like, I know the French are supposed to be like too cool for school, right? Like, the French are just supposed to be effortlessly laissez-faire. Is that
Laissez-faire.
Laissez-faire, right? Laissez-faire. Pew, pew, pew.
Laissez-faire.
I can't speak French. Wait, who am I talking about? I can only do the accent. I can't speak it. So, right. So they're supposed to be like too cool for school. No, you know, effortless, not giving a shit. I think Laurent seems to be... His shit seemed to be going downhill, but the cool's going. You know what I mean? Like, it's like... It's not marrying up here.
What you're saying is that more and more as things were going wrong, Laurent's laissez-faire attitude, as you put it,
Yeah.
he was just sitting back more and more going, shit.
I'm not even going to fucking do a second proof.
Well, that's a bit shit, isn't it?
Yeah. Like, it over the weeks, I've just noticed it just become less and less about, you know, baking and more about
Hanging out. We'll come back to Laurent's laissez-faire attitude a bit later. Reem. So Reem was making wool-spun bread.
Ooh, this looks good.
With the corn and coconut custard. Now, I really liked the fact that, first of all, like Darren said, I'm not used to this flavour, and Rachel's like...
We use corn quite a lot.
And it's quite well done. The fact that
in Southeast Asia.
The way they're doing it is really good because it does give you the ability for Rachel Khoo to introduce to an audience that might not be as broadly aware of that because they're very much brought up, as we've talked about, on those Anglo-style or those French-style bakes of the world of baking that you see around.
And I think the only sweet corn that people might know of is it in the sweet corn soup. Sweet corn, chicken and sweet corn soup,
yes,
you know?
Exactly. But
something's ringing bells, though. Keep going.
We're going to keep moving on that one.
Cornbread.
Yep. Not quite. So, every ingredient that at this point in time, Cal worked out that almost every ingredient in this seemed to start with a C. This is my second mention of Nerman for the night. Hi, Nerman. Now you're listening. So one of the things, if you check out Nerman's Instagram, Nerman from last year, from last year's Bakeoff, if you check out his Instagram, there are examples where he has done bakes traditionally where he picks a single letter. And every ingredient must have that letter in as the starting letter. Fucking
hell.
They are unbelievably epic, and we're not talking like
Can
he
you
does.
actually eat them?
Yeah. So we're not talking about that he's done like one thing with that letter. We're talking about 8, 9, 10, 11 different items because Nerman overloads everything with everything.
Who does he feed? Obviously, he's possum people.
The entirety of Tasmania is the answer to that question. The entirety of Tasmania. So, yeah, but I highly recommend, check out Nerman's Instagram, obviously. But yeah, he does those. So, Reem's sort of following in Nerman's footsteps.
Love it. Although she's just fucking brilliant.
We'll talk a lot more about Reem later because, yeah.
I'm glad they installed her.
Exactly. I had someone the other day message me and say they got into a cab.
Yes.
And the Installer Reem commercial was playing and they couldn't stop. So, Adam is making jam. Now, he said, I like my jam with chunks in it. Mm-hmm. So the jam itself is a bit more liquidy, which Rachel warned that it shouldn't be too liquidy.
Yeah, I feel like there in this particular, she said that to Adam and she just warned, Neil. She warned Neil about a problem. I can't remember. Something, I think it might have been even overworking. I can't remember. Yeah. And it was something very straightforward. And I think, you know, like, you do that polite thing of, like, obviously, you know, she's got to do this because she's teaching, like, speaking to the people at home more than the bakers themselves. So, I get it, but then the week she's like, no, you want it sticky and not too thin so it doesn't run out. And I'm like, was that low-key snark from Adam? Like,
Adam's
okay.
like, what?
That's right. He goes, that's really good advice.
Yeah, that's really good advice. But he was...
And, for the people at home playing along at home, that is really good advice. Don't have leaky bread.
Yeah, for Adam, probably not. But strawberry and cinnamon babka was what he was going for as well. Really cool combination. Now, Gav was in this challenge only, because the rest of the episode was really good. But in this challenge, this was your uncle that's just started baking last week. Prune and cranberry sweet loaf.
Look, he's cut down his hours at work.
Got some time to bake.
Exactly, he's going to do more surfing. He's discovered baking, he and his mates are getting the band back together.
Tribute band down at the RSL.
Yep. I'm pretty sure it'd be a Beach Boys tribute band, maybe?
Occasionally a Prodigy cover fits in. You've never lived until you've heard Gavin the Beach Surfers sing and Smack My Bitch Up.
No. They changed it to Smack My Beach Up.
Smack my beach up.
Oh, no. Clean my beach up. It's got an environmental...
Of course
Clean my beach up.
Clean my beach up. Who's the beach for? Clean my beach up.
Yeah. It's got a real strong environmental message. They want to get to the youth.
They've got to get to the youth about cleaning up the beach. Not just on Clean Up Australia Day. Cleaning up the beaches every day.
Yep.
Anyway, then we're going to go... Rachel asked about the level of flavour, though. I did say, are you sure you've just soaked your fruit in some citrus? Is that going to be enough flavour? Spoiler alert, no.
It is. Oh, it isn't?
No, it wasn't.
Oh my God, I'm still back at... I'm still back at Clean My Beach Up. And now I'm trying to think of a song about, erosion, like beach erosion. And
they also took another one, which is all about public transport, called This Baby's Got a Tram Card.
God. Oh no, okay.
He takes the 901. She takes the 901. Just to get it on. Because baby's got a tram card. Anyway. So, Galia. Poor Galia. Look, speaking of people that had a day when we talked about Laurent. Galia, they cut to Galia, and before she'd even been on camera, she'd curdled her first orange curd.
Oof.
And had to restart the orange curd again.
Look, she hadn't had breakfast and she was combining her morning juice and eggs.
She was the I look away. There was an I look away disaster drink because she said she left it sitting on the stovetop too long when she turned around.
There we go.
There we are. Drink. There's a catch-up drink right there. Then she was doing an orange and cinnamon loaf with the orange curd baked inside.
Yep.
Now, Darren reminded her that you don't overfill, which again, it's the same advice they gave Adam.
His was like, not leaky, but don't stuff it too hard.
Yeah. Now, part of the problem here is that for poor Galia, that was the least of her concerns in this challenge. She really... It wasn't a fun bread week.
I don't know which baking god she pissed off. I'm now going to have to look up the Sri Lankan god of baking because she's got some appeasement to do.
She really does. So... We then get the time call from Natalie where she... Look, and speaking of people that had up and down episodes, Natalie had an up episode.
Oh, yeah.
Natalie Tran was the MVP of this episode. Yeah. Look, and I know Neil Star Baker, but Natalie Tran was the MVP of this episode. We got the, I will do anything for love, but I won't do that. And they were like, what? No, it's not a meatloaf. It's a sweet loaf. And she's like, what? I loved it. The timing, the deadpan, absolutely bang on. Yes. Then we cut to Felicity. Now, Felicity was making a pecan Danish, which she was struggling to wrangle into the right shape. Brown sugar and cinnamon with icing sugar. And I like the way she was like, yeah, it's going to listen. And
she's just started what we all do when we're kind of, I don't know, packing our suitcase. She's just packing the bread in.
Preparing.
It's going to fucking fit.
She's preparing for the new child. It's going to do what it's told.
And you're not thinking about what's going to happen when you have to repack your bag and get home again because nothing ever fucking fits. I don't know about anyone else, but I always pack like a spare like shopping bag thing to pack the things. And I won't buy anything additional to fit in that bag. I just can't repack it the way it went in.
It never goes back the same way, does it?
No. My bags are essentially like when you buy a printer.
Well, then it's cheaper to buy a new bag.
Yeah. Anyway, back at the ranch.
Sandra. Sandra was making a blueberry... Now, look, I was fascinated by this because everyone else was like, they had the thing, they were rolling up. Sandra is cutting individual squares. Yeah. And I'm like, what the hell is Sandra doing?
She looks like she was making sandwiches for the
yes.
for the CWA.
Yes, she's come out to Australia. Yeah. She's been here for a while now.
She's really Australian now.
You know, with DIY, mate, DIY. And we saw several examples of that. Sandra had a big last challenge. Anyway, we'll come to that. But in this first challenge here, I was wondering what she was doing. The answer was genius.
Yes, I like it that she called it an accordion. Yep. Because, you know, not only... Like, I think this is perfect for, like, bushfire relief. You know, the fires have been out there fighting the fires. They come back. The sandwiches are not only in an accordion shape, but you could play it like a musical instrument, I assume. You know, just a little bit of accordion music to soothe the weary soul.
Now, the only part of this I didn't really like was didn't really like, but I'm not a massive marzipan person.
No, you're not.
Like, I can take all that. A little bit of marzipan's okay. I did agree when they gave the feedback later on where they said if you'd weaved the marzipan through rather
you're
than
more of a Lilliputian of a marzipan person.
Let's go with that.
Is that? Yeah, Lilliput.
Yeah, Lilliput.
Lilliputian.
Yes.
But they were Lilliputians, weren't they?
They were.
Yeah.
So...
people know where I'm going with this.
Somebody does.
Someone out there, though, that means someone out there is a Gulliver of, like, of marzipan.
Who would be the Gulliver of marzipan?
Someone who really likes almond-based things.
Anyway, Neil. Neil went back to one of his...
I know who the Gulliver... Because he'd have to activate it first.
Oh, God.
Pete Evans. Anyway, back to the
Except when they all tied him up and put him on trial, you want him to be found guilty. Anyway, so Neil. Yes. So we talked about earlier, he said about giving away bread was a big thing. And Neil, once again, same thing he did in episode 1 where he was feeding Laura when he vaguely made something he liked.
Yes.
Cal walks over to the bench and once again... And he's like, what are you doing, Neil? I'm just colouring the icing. Can I have a taste? Sure, here you go. Can I just eat the rest of it? And he laughed, but he didn't say no. Because Neil, I think, is incapable of saying no to that.
No, but he had this look on his face and he looks like, are you serious?
I like the idea that Neil had to make an entirely brand new batch.
Yeah, because what we don't see off camera, like Cal Wilson's all friendly, like on camera, but behind the camera, like out of camera shot, she's just there staring at the bakers, going, "Where's my icing? You're gonna hand it over, aren't you? How do you think I dye my hair?"
Now we cut back to Laurent. Laurent goes, "We will figure out if that proved or not." It didn't. And he was did the big reveal. He was. He had one proof and it didn't even work. So in other words, he had zero proofs. Zero proofs on the brioche. Cut back to Galia, who is worried that her loaf isn't neat. Meanwhile, Laurent just basically goes, well, I've got to bake it. And I kind of feel like in the first challenge, Laurent's was slightly under. It was obviously very tight because it hadn't been proved properly.
Yeah.
And Galia's, which we'll get to, was... I'm not going to sugarcoat it. Raw dough. Yeah. It was raw dough. And I'm wondering if the difference was Galia spent time fiddling with it and, it doesn't quite look right. And she kept on like, it looks really messy and she's trying to neaten it up. And meanwhile, Laurent pulled it out, went, it's not really proved. I've got to get it in the oven.
Yeah.
So put it in the oven and Galia took way too long to get it in the oven.
Look, they were both opposite ends of a conundrum. You know, like, taking too long to make it look good and making sure the proof is done, but not having enough time to bake, and then not giving it enough time to bake or to prove, and putting it in to bake, despite it's not going to bake that well because it's not going to come out that well. It just yeah.
Then we had a pit situation where we got to watch everyone work out if they thought that their bread was done or not, which is always fun. It was like later on in the episode where Alona said, you know, I always promised myself it wouldn't be me staring at an oven, and yet here I am.
There's no one listening to their bakes, though.
No one was listening specifically to their bakes this episode. And that was a problem. Now, then we got Laura helping Adam. And again, if you're going to be anybody in life, be a Laura. So first of all, Laura goes over to help Adam and she's like, I won't need to hold anything together. It's going to be fine. It's going to be fine. And, Adam's trying to, he's like, well, you're going to have to hold it together because it's going to fall apart with the jam. And she's like, I'm not going to have to hold anything together. It's going to be fine. And it was. Then later on, at the end of it, goes running over to Alona's bench and just goes, oh, it smells amazing. Like, Alona, that smells. Be a Laura. Mm-hmm. Be a Laura in life. Then we cut back at the very end to poor Laurent, and we cut back to Galia. Laurent's like, I got my timing wrong. I didn't know what my timings were.
Yeah.
And then Galia pulls hers out, and it just looked a bit under.
Yeah.
As we'll see when we get to the judging, it's a bit more than a bit. So, Laura, they said it had a good shine. The layers look good. Great flavours, good crunch, good texture.
Did look delicious.
Now we go to Galia. And Rachel just simply went, what happened here?
Well, when she pulled it out, I was just staring at it, trying to see what form it was going to eventually take. Like, it looked kind of like it moved out of the tin into an amorphous blob.
It did.
And I'm surprised the judges were able to eat anything.
They ate the curd.
Yeah.
They were eating a bit of... I would not have touched the bread.
They didn't need to.
No.
It really wasn't necessary.
So they said it was really raw. The curd tasted good, however, but they said, and the interesting point that Darren made was, I think you've got too much dough. And again, we talked before about Laurent and, the idea of if you can't fit the two proofs in, don't do that bread.
Yeah.
Galia's recipe probably needed to have an amount of dough dialed back for the baking time.
Yeah.
And it just felt a little bit like there was just too much of it. And so, there was no way it was cooking in the time frame she had, especially if she was behind, because she had to remake the curd.
Yeah.
So that's going to slow her down. Neil. Now, they said Neil's looked light, had a really good crust, a great balance of flavour, and the salty butter that he used was a really good call.
Oh, look, it looks so fucking good.
It really did. Alona. Really good colour, wonderful flavour, very clear layers. And that was what I like with Alona's. You could see the cross-section of the layers that she had.
Yeah.
And a really good texture. Felicity's had great marbling through it. The crust was really good. And they said the cinnamon hit was really warming. Laurent. They said that it was a bit smaller than other people's loaves. Well, no shit.
Look, he was with the tiny loaf movement.
They did say that it had a great flavour.
Yeah.
But they said it was also underdone.
If it was any tinier, he'd have to be one of those Instagram or TikTok accounts that had the tiny baking.
Yeah,
the people
exactly.
Who just, it's a thing. I need to respect I shouldn't yuck other people's yums, but I'm just like, the tiny baking. Like, I've seen people cook a bean.
Yeah, exactly. I don't understand that the tiny food trend is, yeah.
Go. If you're doing it, great.
Run, don't walk to that.
Enjoy.
Ream. So it looked amazing, and it really did. The rings on that looked incredible. The flavour worked really well, and the texture was soft and pillowy. Gav, the braid looked really good. I said good texture, but lacking in the fruit, and it was. You could see a little bit of fruit and a little bit of fruit, and it was like someone had taken a piece of sultana bread and pulled all the sultanas out.
Look, he just forgot to duck down the shops for some extra. He thought the sultanas he had in the cupboard were enough.
Yep.
He didn't have time. He's got to get to the gig.
Now, Sandra, they said loads of filling, and that felt like an understatement when you saw that thing. It was loaded.
Yeah. Wait, maybe she went and stole some of Gav's fruit.
I love purple, but that was a lot. Flavour was great.
So purple. Yeah. Prince is rising from the grave. She summoned Prince.
So purple that it actually put her amazing purple icing on the cribbage board to shame.
So purple, a people eater emerged out of it. It was so purple.
How purple was it?
Grimace.
Put it in the comments. Grimace. Well, that's handy given that Ronald McDonald appears later.
Yep.
So they said that the pistachios added richness, that she could have marbled the marzipan in, and it probably would have helped a bit more. And Adams, they said it looked beautiful, the jam was delicious, and everyone loved it. Now, this is where Adam tried to say they both liked his bottom with a straight face. He couldn't. And then we cut to Laurent.
I'm surprised you didn't say you're not the first.
Now remember,
it was right there.
It was right there, Adam. You should have done it. Now remember,
Although now he's got a great tag, my bottom has been admired by both Darren Purchase and Rachel Koo.
So, Laurent, if you remember in episode 1, set the bar really low where he set up...
You can pop that on one of the apps, like as your tagline. Anyway, back at the ranch.
So Laurent set the bar really, really low in the first episode.
I'm just trying to help Adam out.
When he actually said that, obviously I'm going okay so far, they don't want to throw me out yet. So from the master of that,
yes,
I had to choose between proving and baking, and I've done a poor job at both of them. I admire the man for that alone.
Self-honest commentary. He's got insight to where he's at. I think that when it comes time to the Virgies, we're going to have to make a special category for Laurent.
Yeah. So... He doesn't get his own category. I think he's own wing. It's a wing of the awards. So the technical.
Yes.
Now, they also wanted to blindfold you and turn off the electricity, but we said that was going too far.
Yes. Plus, those consent forms are not signed, and our OH&S and safety officer are just going, Cal, back away from the switch. Natalie?
Yes?
Put the blindfolds down.
So, Darren Purchase, his feedback was, you need precision incisions. And don't forget to keep your ears open. At which point they said, please leave, because we can't afford you two for the next bit.
It'd be funny if it was true.
So, Fugasse. Now, Fugasse is a legendary bake?
Yep. It is popular in cinemas, apparently.
So yes, Great British Bake-Off the other season, I believe it was Tom, who said, and I quote here, when they said about Fugasse as a challenge, all these bakers are going, never heard of Fugasse, don't know what Fugasse is, what's Fugasse, never heard of Fugasse. Cut to him and he went, I make it as my cinema snack.
Yes, look, I think it was also Tom of the coated hazelnut nights.
Yes, it was the same, from later on in that season.
So we have a night reference and a Fugasse reference. So we're just being inhabited by the spirit of Tom tonight, I believe.
Completely.
Next week there'll be cogs turning in the shed.
Yes. So, Wattleseed and Labna, however, with an Australian Dukkha. So a slight twist from Darren Purchase.
Yep.
2.5 hours. Now, this is where we get have you made one before? Have you heard of one before? Neil's made one. Of course he had. Yep. Adam vaguely has heard of one. Sandra had intentions to make one, but never has. Then they asked Laurent if being French helps.
Because they...
No.
Okay, so because they said, this is from the south of France, and Laurent's like, I'm from Nice, which is in the south of France. Now, some people might think, geez, that should help. You should know how to make Fugasse. But if someone turned to me and said, Kristie, can you make a meat pie because you're from Australia? I'd be like, not from scratch.
Not from scratch. No, I can't. Not from scratch. Pre-prepared ingredients thrown together, yeah, maybe.
Yeah, I mean, although that said...
Yeah.
I probably fucking could. We probably could. We've made pastry and we've made pies, but with pre-prepared pastry.
I'm not very good. I'm not very good at making the pastry.
No.
And I've been yelled at, by the way, by several bakers from different seasons.
Yeah, about you
being lazy
to make the pastry.
My being lazy.
No, he's being he's just saving
I'm being thoughtful with my time.
So I don't think it would help Laurent, and I think he had that in his face. Like that look on his face of like, no, it won't help me.
Being French, does that help you? And Laurent's like, no, not really.
No, it's like I can be French and not know how to make a duck au l'orange.
That was the Laurent. That was part of that Laurent and Nat back and forth where he Fugasse. Excellent, you're almost French. There you go. Why? Thank you. Oui.
Didn't she go, wow?
Wow. Oui.
Beautiful.
And at this point was when Gav's bowl came loose. And like almost shot across the kitchen. Now everyone starts developing gluten. One of our favourite parts. Except for Gav. Gav is not developing gluten.
No, it sounds like they're all breaking out in a rash of gluten. Yeah. What are you doing? Oh no, I think I'm developing gluten.
Not again. And then it appears out of nowhere. Big Plum infiltrated the shed again. Davidson Plum, or as Laurent said, Harley Davidson plums.
Chris, no, you don't get it. This is not an invasion. This is nothing. You know, it's a very beneficent plum. Davidson plum is perfectly fine, and I think it's very generous of them to appear in the shed.
You've not been the same since they kidnapped you.
I've been exactly the same. Bye, Davidson plum. Bye, Davidson plum. Bye, Davidson plum.
Something's different, and I don't know
Bye,
what.
Davidson plum.
I will work it out. Anyway.
By the way, you've emptied out the garage because we've got a delivery of Davidson plum coming tomorrow.
What?
Buy Davidson plum.
I've apparently got to buy some Davidson plum. Anyway, we'll do that after the podcast. Laura and Adam then do some yoga mid-technical, which is what you've always wanted. It was really fascinating. Like, as I said, we've talked a lot about the fact that they're not allowed to communicate during the technical, which they've been much better at this year.
Yes.
I had no problem with a lot of the stuff that was happening in between, though, because it was in between. Things were already baking, and nobody was helping anybody.
No,
and we'll get to it later on with the Laurent-Neil interaction, which is one of my favourite things from this episode.
Yeah.
So this is where we get another Nat classic. You have 1 hour to live. Sorry, you have 1 hour left. Turns to Cal. Left to live. Like, Nat was on fire in this episode.
It was beautiful. But this is what I appreciated. I think we've got the right balance here in the technical interaction, you know. They're interacting, they're still being kind and lovely to each other, but there's, you know,
no help.
There's no help, and they have to rely on their own, you know, experience and skills for the technical bake.
Exactly. Now,
yes.
Everyone starts to try to recreate the pattern. Or summon the Illuminati, which was the other thing I thought was happening. I've never seen so many triangles being drawn in my life.
Just waiting for Tom Hanks to walk through the door.
Yes, try to work it all out.
Asking where the albino is.
However, this is where we started getting the shaping of foods. And this is your domain.
Okay, so, you know, this is why I think it's bad that we don't have more... We're not more sex positive in our society because, you know, they go, shape it into a triangle. It's like, no, shape it into a fucking yoni. Or at least a leaf. It's not a fucking triangle. Like, Paul Laurent took that fucking seriously.
Made a Christmas tree.
And I think he was doubting himself. He's like, oh, I'm sure this isn't the shape that I used to see back in Nice. But he's made a literal triangle. And I'm like, it's not. It's not. And it's really not
the most unfortunate one.
Yeah.
Was the brief shot we got of Galia's. Because they showed Galia as she was in the middle of doing one of the folds.
Yep.
And so at the pointy bit of the triangle, she'd done... Nub. No, it wasn't a little nub. She'd done several infolds.
Oh, that's right. There
was a full
labias.
shaping.
There was a full labia shaping.
There was a full shaping. They cut very quickly.
Yeah. Because they're like, oh, we bloody know Kristie's going to go on about this in the podcast.
Yeah, they very quickly moved on. Then we got Felicity put hers in there, and she goes, "Oh, this just could be, you know, a bit of an errant wayward child there." At which point Sandra behind us gone, "A bun in the oven, Felicity?" And it's like, oh,
well done, Sandra.
It's also a pun to drink. Then we get my favourite interaction of the episode. Neil is at Laurent's oven.
Yes.
Laurent goes, "Does yours look like this, Neil?" And Neil goes, "No, not at all." And they just both start laughing, and Neil's like, "You've made a Christmas tree." And Laurent at this point is just dying of laughter because he's worked out that this is fucking wrong.
Look, Laurent, you could have just tripled down on everything and just gone, you know what? This is the shape we do it in Nice, okay? I should know. I've been there.
Remember, Gav did. Remember, like last week when Gav said that Nat and Cal had stolen his food.
That's right.
Double down.
Yeah, you just go. Don't question me and my people's baking.
I'm right.
I'm right.
Okay, so the judging. Neil looked great. Great colour, well made, well proofed, quality. They were basically at this point, they gave it number one by the time they'd moved. They hadn't moved and they were like, this is perfect.
Yeah.
Adams, good incisions, good flavour, but it was a little bit pale. Laura, they said hers were identical, and they literally held them up, and they were
were.
absolutely perfect. They said the taste was good. It needed a bit more salt on the outside. Mm-hmm. Felicity's were thin on one side and were underproofed, however, good flavour.
Oh, did you pick up that little handy tip from Sandra? That you got to salt from above.
Yes.
You know?
Salt from above, you get a good spread. You salt from close, clumps.
Yes. I mean, it would be better if it was a bit more rhymey, you know, to give it a bit more of a proverbial feel.
Salt from above, nothing but love.
Yes, salt from below, you're just a dirty clumpy hoe.
I was going to say a bit too slow, but that works too. Speaking of Sandra's, they said they were a bit too crunchy, but good flavour. I personally like crunchy bread, so I would have loved it. Reem, they said there was quite a large gap in the middle. And look, Reem, to be honest, when she cut them, at one point she looks at them, they came out of the oven, she goes, I don't think they're supposed to have a hole that size. No, definitely not. You could have put a couple of the other baker's fougasses through the hole in her fougasse.
It was an arcade
like Gav's,
style
like Gav's
fougasse.
had no cuts in them, so they were smaller. You could have fit Gav's through hers. And Reem's could have actually been used as wall decorations.
Yes, yes.
So they said, though, good texture and flavour. Mm-hmm. Galia's, now, I'm quoting directly here.
Yeah.
The words they used were dense, underbaked, bendy, underproofed, chewy, and said probably down to bad time management. But beyond that, they were great.
Yeah, and I think we're going to have to trust the judges
on the time management
on
thing.
the time management.
Because they've brought it up a couple of times.
Yeah.
Alona, good flavour, not the same consistency as Darren's, but a good crust. And I like the fact that Rachel's whole thing is deliberately bringing it back to the test bake that she ate and going, well, this isn't the same as yours because X. This isn't the same as... And you're not expecting them to get to his level, but what she's doing is clearly labelling the differences in what they're judging.
Yeah.
So I don't mind that. Laurent, they said, a bit pointy, slightly underbaked, and a bit lifeless.
It's not something you want to be told about your baking.
This is where I felt poor Galia and poor Laurent. They got some of the harshest feedback in this episode I've ever heard given.
But you know what? Because, like, Bakeoff is, like, one of the sweetest shows on TV. It's like...
It stands out.
It stands out. And you think, is this them dulling their critique? Like... How bad actually was it to be awarded the term lifeless?
It's
like that is soul crushing.
It is. And then Gav, the incisions weren't quite there. The flavours are good, but the lack of incisions hurt the baking. So it was Galia, Laurent, Gav, Reem, Alona, Sandra, Felicity, Adam, Laura, and Neil in first place. Bringing us to the showstopper, as Cal Wilson said, this must be worshipped by ducks. 2 different types of bread, 5 hours.
Look, at least I think one of the bakers decided to go with, like, if that was actually in the brief, there's one baker who went with, oh, ducks are going to worship this, obviously, Aztec ducks.
Yes.
Or Macca's ducks.
Either or.
Yeah.
So let's get into it. So... Laura starts by telling everyone that the bread smells fair.
Look, yeah.
But she also then spread out to pastry and, like, I think she was lumping them all together as the dark arts. Bread, pastry, all of those sorts of things were all the dark arts.
Look, baking is just the dark arts.
I mean,
it is pure alchemy. You know, cooking is, you know, not hit or miss. It's a lot looser.
You can rescue it.
You can rescue it.
99.5%. 99% of the time when you put a bake in the oven, once it's in the oven,
that's it.
You're fucked if it's not good.
Yep.
So this is where we got
a lemon tart.
Yeah, with the lemon
cake. Was
Jess's lemon cake.
Oof, R.I.P.
So,
yep.
This is where Darren and Rachel gave their feedback on who was in trouble. And Darren said...
Surprise, surprise.
Darren said...
Is it the person with the lifeless bake?
Or is it
the person with
the one that they said was
dense,
underbaked, dense? Okay, so...
Yeah.
This is where we said, like, it stood out, and we're not laughing. This is the important point to remember here is we're laughing at the concept of the nicest show on television. with this.
Yeah.
Galia has more ambition than she can follow through with. And I'm like, oh, that's a gut punch. Yeah. And then Rachel, Monsieur Laurent, brioche was underbaked and the fougasse didn't look like fougasse.
Like, this is... Okay, I think we're laughing because we don't get this that often on Bakeoff.
And look,
this is the whole thing. It's not acerbic either. Like, this is not done in any kind of mean-spiritedness.
Not at all.
There's no... They're being harsh on the bakes, not on the baker.
Look,
you know?
The two bakers involved had a bad week.
Yeah.
Like, there is absolutely no hiding from that.
No.
They had a bad week. It doesn't mean they can't do these bakes again properly. Remember, we talked about it with Natalie last week, and we've talked about it over the years with other bakers. It's a very different thing when you find yourself with cameras and time pressure and
not your usual environment.
Yeah, and ovens that are different temperatures and all those sorts of things. Yeah. So you can just have, and we've seen, we know of really good, again, we talked about it, I mentioned it in the Natalie episode, I've mentioned it a bunch of times. The first series of Canadian, the first baker that went home, everybody who was in that series we probably thought he was going to win it. He made a mousse cake. The mousse didn't
set. And it was a mousse steak.
The mousse didn't set in time. He pulled the collar off and the whole thing went flood everywhere. Home he went.
Yeah.
Nobody went, oh, he couldn't bake and he went, no, the answer is, they said he was probably going to be close to winning it. They all saw his food beforehand and went, oh, crap, he's probably going to be really good.
Yeah.
And it's just something, you have a day. Everybody has them. You've just got to hope that you can ride them out. Now, it's rare that you have two people that have a day on the same day.
Yeah.
To the extent they did. But it's just the feedback was very... And look, they were still really positive in the judging. Like, remember, Galia's first bake was raw. But they praised the curd.
Exactly. You
know, they find the things that are positive. And Darren even said, we know what you were trying to do.
Yeah.
Just didn't get there. So, speaking of that, Reem said, I know what I'm supposed to do so it comes out a certain way, but I don't know all the technical words and stuff behind it.
Yeah.
I have so much time for Reem.
I know you do.
I think that she's a really awesome young baker.
Yes.
And I like the way that, look, she doesn't know all the technical terms, she doesn't know all the science behind it. But she's like, if I want the bake to turn out this way, we'll get to that. I like the bake to turn out this way, I need to do X, Y, Z.
Yeah.
And she does.
And she's going to learn, she's got time.
That's the thing, she's young.
Yeah.
Like, she's got so much time.
Like, I'm sure she knows about Marie Antoinette now.
I hope so. We'll come back to that in a moment. So, Adam. Now, Adam did the Sun God Rising.
Yes. Or as I like to call it, Ronald McDonald as... The sun rising in the Wicker Man. You know the parody?
Yep.
The Teletubby parody on YouTube and the baby's face? This is what I'm seeing. Is like more of a like McDonald's Wicker Man.
So yeah, look, the drawing...
Like, it looked really fucking good, don't get me wrong.
Here's the thing. The drawing, I think, was the problem in this one. Yes. We love the artist, by the way. The artist is brilliant, has been doing that for years. But the artist's impression of what Adam was going for looked like Ronald McDonald cookies in the Cookie Land.
And I'm not complaining. I do like those
fans
cookies.
Of those.
We're fans of the cookies. I am disappointed they don't come in the little boxes anymore.
I was here because he said it was kind of an Aztec/Egyptian motif. Look, I had to go at Reem the other day about a history knowledge. Yeah. The Aztec/Egyptian motif, which is it? They're vastly different.
And if it was an Egyptian motif, it's usually just the triangle and the circle, isn't it? If you're going for the arten.
No, the arten is the sun disk with the hands off it.
That's right. So you could have gone the arten way, you know.
See, Amun-Ra is harder to draw because there's a lot more involved in that.
That's what I was thinking.
If you'd done the arten, what I would have done is I would have done an arten, and I would have done a round disc with like all the different arms and hands coming off the arten, reaching out and grabbing and sending the rays out. Look, this is.
Look, I think you missed a trick, not going for the Greeks, because you could have gone for the Titan Helios. He's a pretty cool dude. Very forgiving. You know, Hercules actually shot an arrow at Helios when he was like fucking walking through the desert and like just going, it's too fucking hot. Shot an arrow at Helios. That's pretty shit, particularly when you're trying to go and do all these things to get your family back or whatever it is. And Helios is like, dude, I understand you're having a bad time. Here, let me help you. Like,
come for the baking and the tangents. Stay for the mythology.
Or you could do Apollo. Now, Apollo is one of the Olympians. Cool. Yes. He was raised up from being a mouse god, though.
That gives you a 2 stages bake.
It is. You could do a bit of mice. You can do a bit of sun.
You could do a dual stage bake.
And how cute would the mice be? I'm a little mouse bake. Eat my tail.
So Galia, now.
Yes.
I promise this is not a...
Like the Hickory Dickory Dock Clock from the
Women's Weekly Book.
Which we don't
So
enough, really.
I promise this is not a and then Galia and then Laurent episode. It genuinely isn't. And I know there were other bakers that used this, but they only focused on 2 of them. So Galia, they talk about her one. She's using a yellow and a red dough. The yellow is turmeric and the red is beetroot and chili with a bit of turmeric. And she's doing the Sri Lankan devil mask with grissini and coconut roti. And then they mention the mask and the base will be made of structural dough. Now, structural dough, as they then went on to talk about, also known as dead dough.
Yep.
Now, we've talked about dead dough on Canadian last year.
Mm-hmm.
And we talked about the idea that we weren't necessarily a fan of a lot of dead dough because you can't really be judged on dead dough.
No, you've got to be able to balance out, a centerpiece, if it's going to be not just for the aesthetic. Like, this is not an ice sculpture. No one goes up to the ice sculpture at your fancy ball and goes, I'd like a scotch on the rocks, but I'll have the dolphin's tail.
Yeah.
Or the swan's beak.
Yes.
That's not what that's for. But in this specific thing, you're looking at being able to eat it. It's like the Yule log that's made. It's a centerpiece, but it's also edible. And you don't want to go into your Yule log and find that you're just getting a bit of random yucky dead dough.
Exactly. So remember back to Cake Week.
Yes.
Now, what was the feedback that was given in Cake Week when Laurent put the shell of the...
it wasn't edible.
Do not put something on a display like that that is not edible.
Yeah.
Look, dead dough is technically you could eat it, but you definitely shouldn't.
This is essentially the same issue with when you watch Cake Boss and all that shit. Fucking Rice
Krispies everywhere.
Yeah.
Now,
from like top to tail, if it's just Rice Krispie squares, it's a Rice Krispie.
Now Galia's design was awesome.
And why the fuck haven't Americans moved on from the Rice Krispie treat onto the chocolate crackle? It's an advanced Rice Krispie treat.
It's too advanced. So Galia's design was
Do they not have Kofa?
So Galia's design was really good.
Or desiccated coconut.
And it was very impressive and the colours were really good.
Mm-hmm.
But all that was actually edible was the grissini at the back and the tiny bit of roti. And when we get to the judging, as Rachel said in the judging, you needed to make that much longer so there was more of it. Because realistically, it was really... There wasn't a lot of edible bread on it.
No.
And I'm not comfortable with, and this is not Galia, this is the terms of the challenge. I'm not comfortable with someone being judged based on a bake where half of it looks pretty but can't be eaten.
Then you may as well be
what are we doing?
Judged on the tray you serve it on.
Exactly. So, we'll come back to that in a minute because Laurent did a similar sort of thing.
It's I know it's just a cupcake, but this is the gold setting from Queen Elizabeth the First.
Exactly. Well, you're in. Congratulations.
First orgy.
Yes.
No, she was a virgin, so it never happened. Wink, wink, nudge, nudge. Anyway.
So, Reem.
Yes.
Welcome to Reem Rewrites History.
No, history according to Reem.
Oh, history according to Reem. I'm sorry.
Yes.
A lot of 70s parties had a disco ball as their centerpiece.
Yep.
They certainly did, Reem.
Yep.
Disco ball.
It's all there was.
All there was. Big
No
parties
bowls.
in the 70s. No bowls, no car keys, no fondue.
No, there was no fondue.
No.
There was no aspic based.
There was no aspic whatsoever. In fact, if anything, Reem, if you'd made an aspic, that was far closer to what the centerpiece was at most 70s parties. Anyway, or towards the end of the 70s, cocaine. Anyway,
Look, I loved the aesthetic though, the disco ball
Oh, it
and
was
the
cool.
flowers.
It was cool. We're just giving you a lot of shit, Reem, because you know
because you're young and you make us feel old.
cinnamon spice brioche.
You know how to do the ticks and the tops.
Cinnamon spice brioche, pretzel flowers.
To the top. Hip hop, and you don't stop.
Now, Natalie again tried to get the judges to leave frame doing something silly. Last time, of course, she did succeed to get all of them going.
I know. And
This time, Rachel went. Darren walked off, and even when they walked off camera, they went, "You didn't do it." And he goes, "I'm not doing that."
this is not the bet I would have had. If someone said to me, okay, you have to choose between Rachel and Darren, who is refusing to walk
Disco
off
dance.
disco dancing,
Yeah.
I would have been like, I think Rachel Koo is probably a bit too,
No, Rachel
posh.
did it.
No, Rach is cool.
Yep, Rachel did it. Darren,
Rachel's just another one of us dorks.
Then Laurent, hello from Nice is what he called this. Now look, I'm going to say straight up, as a concept it was really weak. But
Yes.
that wasn't his biggest problem. He also used a lot of dead dough. He did
Yes.
have the dead dough arch and he had dead dough supports. But he had, the idea was the centre part of it was going to be the focaccia baked, we'll come to how he baked that, and the loaf. And so he was baking the pain de mie, the loaf, and then the olive and sun-dried tomato focaccia in the middle.
Yeah.
Now, he decided to use the bamboo bowl, which he was proving it in,
Yeah.
also as the baking vessel. And I am thoroughly convinced
Yeah.
the reason that Laurent went home was once Darren Purchase heard he did that, Darren was done. Because the reaction of Darren when he said that he did that, because like they did that bit where Cal's like, "Why are you baking it in the bamboo?"
Yeah.
And he's like, "Oh, no, it'll bake quite nicely in the bamboo, it won't be a problem." And Cal's like, "I'm going to get a fire extinguisher."
Yeah, won't it catch on fire? It feels like she'd been sent over by producers who had concerns.
Yeah, and then...
And that doesn't surprise me. It'd be like, say if Gavin, Gavin, if he'd have gone, I'm going to go cook the thing in the silicon mold
Yeah.
of the castle.
Yes.
Like this is,
So...
I don't think you can do that, can you?
No, he did bake in the... He baked in the silicon mold.
But obviously it was baked.
Baking,
Oh, that's right.
it's
I've got
baking
the-
grade silicon.
That's right. I've got
You
the
had it in your head.
rose one.
No, but you also had it in your head that you thought it looked like a sandcastle mold.
That's
which
right.
would have been a plastic tub.
If it was,
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, if it wasn't the baking grade, but he just brought in a
Plastic tub from home.
He's got. I just grabbed this from one of
melt.
the grandkids.
But when Darren gets to the judging of it, I'm jumping ahead here, but I bring it up at this point because I think it's the right point to bring up. And he goes, "What'd you bake it in?" And he told him what he baked it in, and Darren immediately went, "No.
And you saw
No, that's bamboo. It's going to burn."
And when it pulled out, you could see that the bamboo was burning.
And that's, the bamboo was burning. It hadn't worked. And you can see the look on Laurent's face. And he even said, "I've underbaked 2 things already this week, and I think I might have just done it again."
Where did that bamboo bowl come from? Was it just a decorative set piece?
No, he brought it because it's the right bowl to prove. Would have been the right bowl to prove in.
Okay.
And the technique worked. The proving worked.
Yeah.
It's the one thing Laurent did in the whole episode that
you
went
proved
beautiful.
yourself there.
Well, actually, it's the second thing. He made that loaf of bread superbly. They didn't show him making the loaf of bread.
No.
But the proving worked. It was just that he then decided to bake it in there.
Yeah.
That's an issue.
Yeah.
That would have been like proving it in a glass bowl, and then going, "Oh, that went so well in the glass bowl, I might just throw it in the oven."
See, I think so where are we up to? Because I'll probably take us off tangent. So there was a moment when we're popping over to Neil and watching him weave his basket. You know,
Yeah.
we've seen a lot of cool woven basket things on Bread Weeks before, which is fucking awesome, and it was great to see it again. And then Laurent wanders over and is like, "What are you doing?" As if it's like something crazy that's gonna flip out. And in my mind, I'm like, Laurent, you cooked that bread really well. If you'd have made something that looked like a picnic basket,
But then-
that was out of dead dough, and then featured that piece of like that beautiful
bread in there,
and maybe made like a bread knife and made some jam to go with it. You know, like it could have been a cute little.
They were, look, we know, and from his
way
bake,
to
we know
feature.
from his bake, we know they were letting dead dough go, so you could have done that.
Yeah.
I think Felicity used a little bit of it as well, not a lot, but a little bit of it. But I don't know because they showed her while they were talking about dead dough.
But I don't think there's.
But all of her
anything
stuff
wrong-
was edible.
Yeah, I don't think there's. No, she made the flower pot out of dead dough.
The outside of the pot, yeah.
which makes sense.
But
'cause
that,
it's
but
not-
it was containing the bread,
yeah.
which was a fucking huge thing of bread.
Yes.
Like, it's a bit different from the majority of a thing being bread dough. Yeah. So, Felicity, speaking of her, now she said that she was making a succulent bowl, but by the time it got to the drawing phase, it was called a cactus. I'm making a succulent bowl. It looks very cactusy. I hope it tastes nice and basil-y.
That's what I want my cacti to taste like.
That's what you want your cacti to taste like?
Yeah.
Basil-y.
Basil-y.
So she was
An
going
old Italian cactus.
cheese and basil
cactus.
the cheese and basil cactus with the shokopan, the Japanese milk loaf.
Yes.
And I loved that because the first bowl, the proving went insane. And this gave Cal her window.
Yes. She was like, I've always wanted to do this. And her arm just disappeared as she punched. And
My highlight was Adam in the background.
Oh,
because Adam was watching in the background.
Yeah.
And when he worked out what she was doing, he stood back and got this smile on his face like, go on, hit it. Hit it. You know you want to.
It's always so satisfying.
Then I got super excited for the next bake.
Did you?
It was Laura. And I got super excited because she goes, my bake's called Gone Walkin'. And I was like, yes, finally, Bakeoff, the ode to Christopher Walken we've all been waiting for. Turns out it was about her walks through, and I was gutted. I was hoping
You were like...
No, this week, there's been a lot of, obviously with Glastonbury being on, a lot of Dave Grohl, because let's face it, he guest starred with everybody at Glastonbury. He seemed to pick up guitars for everyone and go, want someone? Anyone? And I believe at one point, Axl Rose, when he came out, said, Dave Grohl's going to come and play guitar, because let's face it, you can't have too many guitars. But the clip's been resurfacing this week of Dave Grohl talking about when Foo Fighters were on Saturday Night Live for the first time. Mm-hmm. And Christopher Walken was the guest host.
Oh, good God.
And he said, Chris Walken comes up to me and goes, I want to know is the emphasis on the word Foo or on the word fighters? And he's like, I know what's about to happen here. So I said to him, Chris, it's on fighters. And he's like, because everyone focused on Foo Fighters, but he goes, I knew what Christopher Walken would do if I said fighters. So, and then they show the clip, and he's like, ladies and gentlemen, Foo Fighters. And it's just the most Walken thing ever. So I was so hoping this was an ode to Christopher Walken, like Christopher Walken baked in a bread centerpiece. Mm-hmm. No, it was grissini and roasted garlic and parsley pull apart, set out like brambles and stuff. And,
Brambles? It was like eucalyptus.
I'm going with brambles, right? I don't care. It wasn't Christopher Walken.
Not Kathy on the moors.
It wasn't Christopher Walken. I don't care.
She's not Lauren and the Five go caravanning into the brambles.
Laura,
sorry. See, I warned you, episode 1, I would be doing this.
More importantly than all of that, though, forget the brambles. I actually really want the bread. The pull apart, roasted garlic and parsley pull apart sounds amazing and looked incredible. I really want that damn pull apart.
You just hitting everyone up. We're about to get to Sandra, aren't we? Where you're going to be hitting her up?
Well, in a minute.
Okay.
So, Alona.
Oh, Alona, sorry. Yep.
She made her grissini curls.
Oh, yes.
And then the fruit Klugelhorn.
Sure.
Which nobody could pronounce, including Alona.
I don't even think the place it's from can pronounce it. Is it even from a place? Is it just something Alona's made up? A Klugelhorn?
I'm going with that. Now, Darren...
Is it something you get from IKEA? Because it really sounds like...
It goes to the Trundleblick. Yeah. So, Darren thought that the use of a bunt to support the sticks was brave. I thought it was fine. They're not, made of steel.
No.
It's made of grissini. They'll be fine. And they were. They were fine. They all stood.
Yeah.
Sandra. So, Sandra makes her pesto in a meat grinder.
Mm-hmm.
And she was very adamant about making pesto in a meat grinder. And very anti people that pulverise it into baby food, as she put it.
She has a very strong stance on pesto.
I love that so far Sandra's strong stances in this series have been pig peppercorns and pesto in a meat grinder.
Look, I like the idea of a more textural pesto.
Pesto pellets?
Pesto pellets.
You're here for the pesto pellet.
Yeah, I assume that's what rich people's toddlers graduate to. From normal pesto to pesto pellets. When they're teething.
So her idea was to write love in...
Teething rings full of pesto pellets.
So her idea was to write love in 2 different types of scroll. So, chorizo and capsicum and Brazil nut and basil. With a German pretzel base. Now, this is the second time we've seen pretzels. Mm-hmm. And there was about to be a conversation that was about to happen over pretzels. We'll come back. Mm-hmm. So, Rachel did wonder if she was doing too many elements. I'm like, no. In fact, the only thing I was worried about was the size of the word love, which meant she really had to do 2 batches of bakes to get the scrolls made.
Look, if I'd have known she'd done this, on the weekend, I performed with some other people up in Katoomba for the Winter Magic Festival, right? And the showgirl class did the way you look at me. And they had plop, LOVE. And I'm just like, how much better it would it have been if they had edible LOVEs? And I think...
Give it about.
That would have been better. I was disappointed when I first saw them. And I'm like, oh my God, you're going to do the rock melons. And Denny Hines, no.
No, but then she would have had to make HATE and then got rid of it because it don't live there anymore.
No,
it don't know. No. Because LOVE is breaking down its door. There's a reference.
Yeah.
Anyway, let's cut to Gav's big night, shall we?
Yeah.
Or as Cal Wilson put it later on, I did forget to ask him if he was going to call it a one-night stand. So it was
the night to castle ratio was a bit off.
Olive and onion castle, garlic naan armour attached with white chocolate.
Look, I've got a lot of LARP friends, and I now want to ask if they would be prepared to run around for a weekend in garlic naan armour, because 1, you'd look good, but 2, always have a snack.
Always.
You can distract your enemy by how delightfully delicious you smell.
Look, the thing is, if you're in sort of combat, it does help to be able to not only shed something like, a lizard can shed its tail.
Yeah.
It helps to shed something when you're fighting a human that's delicious. So if I'm being chased through, like if we're sword fighting and I'm being chased and I've got to get away, it helps if I can dispose of an armful of armour that's maybe I've got some salamis and a rare assortment of cheeses. And I can just throw that at them and move. The other arm, crackers and dip. And just lob that at them.
Are you just talking about like a night charcuterie board?
Yes.
A charcuterie armour?
Yes.
Okay.
Charcuterie armour is the wave of the future. Think about it. The scales of the armour are individually overlaid salamis.
I'm not complaining.
I didn't think you would be. I think we'll make that this weekend. So, Neil... Yeah, so
that and the fucking baklava lamb.
Oh, what an afternoon we're gonna have. So this is where they did the time call of 1 hour left and half an hour right, and Gav grabs his chest.
It's like, don't do that to Uncle Gav, Cal.
You can't cope.
No. I think that they did have this little look on their faces like, did we go too far with that one?
Yeah. And then we got Reem boiling her pretzels, and then we cut to Sandra.
Yeah, Reem's I'm just going to boil my pretzels. It'll be fine.
Yeah, this is how you can cook pretzels.
Way. And Sandra's like, stand back. I'm Australian. We're going to do it the dangerous way.
And Sandra...
I've got my crocodile.
Sandra's method of this was absolutely brilliant. When, the goggles go on, Cal comes in and goes, what are we doing in the lab? And she's like, what we're doing is we're using caustic soda. And what's the problem with caustic soda? And her response was, if I splash you with caustic soda, you're not my friend anymore.
Ow.
But yes. I absolutely loved the fact that she went very scientific. She went very old school. And then we cut away and we cut back.
Okay, I've just got a moment.
Yes.
Some crazy ass fucking German one day.
Yes.
Dropped some dough in some caustic soda and then cooked it. And then ate it.
It was probably the war. Any of them, really. Germany's got a history.
Fuck. There are people who are obviously not our ancestors because they're the ones who tried all the mushrooms and toadstools to work out.
They had to work out which ones were Pacini. All right. It's a lot of work to work out which is the Pacini and which is going to kill you.
Yeah, which one's just going to make you high as a fucking kite.
I have no great uncles in that side of the family. They all died really young. Anyway, so Sandra and Carl, we then cut back to Sandra taking the pretzels out of the oven. And she looks at them and goes, now that's science. And I'd like to think this is her new science show. That she's just going to do one experiment per week. Yeah. And at the end of the experiment, she's going to put it on the bench in front of her and just go, now that's science.
Yeah. Making some cupcakes, that's science.
And so obviously the STEM part of this is being covered by Sandra. Then we go to the arts and the humanities, which is being covered by a juggling Neil, who asks for a unicycle in the future. And I would just like to say big ups to everybody in production for at the end of the episode getting Neil a unicycle.
Yep.
I'd like to think that the second that Neil went, I want a unicycle, somebody in production, I think I know who, jumped on the phone and went, get me a unicycle immediately.
Look, quite frankly, I wouldn't be surprised if someone from production rocked up
Had
on
one?
a unicycle.
Rode in every day?
That was their mode of transport.
Well, look, at that point in time, COVID was very, very, very prevalent. Really prevalent. And public transport wasn't the way to get there.
No.
Unicycle. It's the only way to guarantee that no one else shares your method of transportation.
Yes.
Look, it was the only way. Sorry, can't car share, can't even tandem bike ride.
No,
I've got a unicycle.
I cannot dinky work.
It's only me.
Yeah, there will be no dinkies.
There is no dinkies. So we then get a quick tour around of what everyone's doing because Laura is at hers and she goes, I'm noticing some amazing bakes. And she's like, this baker's done this baker's done that. Neil's woven a whole basket.
And that's not even his bake.
Yeah.
It's just, he's doing some other weaving on the side.
So we then cut back to Sandra, who at this point in time has earmuffs on and a hammer and is hammering her bake. And she just looks like she's that DIY mate from episode 1. She's Bunnings' dream person.
Okay, so Sandra obviously has been auditioning for the block. And but she then got into baking and she's like, well, I may as well just make this a bit of my block audition as well. So,
But I love that every time, and she was more enthusiastic, and the look on her face while she was slamming that dowel and trying to pin the E to the V.
I know what it is. There's so much on the cutting room floor because there was one time that they could have gone back to her jackhammering. like the dough coming back, she's using a forklift.
Look, you all commented on my Bunnings Warehouse will make your bake grouse thing. But advertising next year anyway. Laurent then walks past. Reem is helping Laurent. Laurent goes past the camera at one point and goes, this is stable, pretty much. Which is about as close as he got to being on. And then Gav. And Gav runs over at the end and goes, oh, Alona, that's all. And before she finishes the sentence, Alona's like, don't make any sudden movements. Don't breathe. Now, obviously, they were all at the benches. They were too fragile to move. So the judging, Alona.
But I think that's bullshit. I think they should have made the move. We would have seen who survived.
I think we might have known. Alona, they said, well filled, good crunch on the grissini, really good job. I don't know what she was panicking about because it all stayed. Laura, they said, crisp all the way through, packed a punch. The tear and share was absolutely beautifully balanced. And they were like, you should be very proud of that one.
Nice.
Gav. Now, Gav got the ultimate that's not a knife moment where he produces the sword.
Oh, my God. And now we see where Darren Purchase has gone, fuck your Hollywood handshake.
I can knight people.
I can knight people.
So the onion and olive bread was nice. The white chocolate and naan was bizarrely good. Not a sentence you're used to hearing. Bizarrely good.
But it makes sense because some of the Indian curries are sweet and they taste good with the naan bread.
True.
Yeah.
Adam, very sculptural, good crust, a bit dry but good flavour, and the Afghan naan was really flavourful.
And the rest of the McDonald's Wicker Men.
Now, Galia. The mask and the base was all dead dough.
Yeah.
The Sri Lankan roti had good punch. There needed to be more of it. The grissini was also a bit soft, they said. Darren was really unhappy with the lack of edible bread. Yeah. And he said, you've barely met the brief in terms of the amount of edible bread that we need.
I couldn't understand why the base couldn't have been roti.
I understand she did do 2 different breads, but there was so little of the roti.
Yeah.
It barely counts as far as I'm concerned. And we'll come to it in a minute. Ream looked really good. The brioche had a good flavour, but was a little bit dry. They said the pretzel was quite good as well. Felicity, the look and texture was awesome. The cheese and basil was delicious and well balanced. The base bread had a bit too much crust on it, but had a really nice flavour. Neil, the colouring was good. The weave was impressive. The breadsticks were softer, but the thorns were crunchy, so you had the double texture. The base bread was very cheesy and delicious. And they were like, you should be so proud of this effort. Like that, the cross-section on that basket looked amazing. Yeah. Then Laurent felt disjointed. Darren said it felt more like a design with a bread that happened to be there. And when he said about what he baked it in, that's when Darren seemed to get really upset with him. It was like, that's just going to burn. Aromatic, but not good texture in it. They did say the loaf was light and airy, and he clearly knew how to bake that bread perfectly, and it was wonderful. But it just felt like they said the loaf was sort of tacked on to the end of it.
Yeah.
Sandra, they said the flavours were perfect. The bread had really good integrity with the fillings. The pretzels looked superb. And most importantly of all, tasted authentic. And like, I loved Rachel's face as she was eating those.
Yeah.
Rachel loved those pretzels.
Yeah, they looked. You could taste them out of the TV. Like, you didn't even need Wonka vision.
So, Star Baker.
Yes.
Easy.
Oh, boom, Neil.
Neil ran away with this episode.
Yep.
And look, they started to try to call him the bread guy. And he didn't fall into the trap. He just sort of ran with it. What I do enjoy is you can tell when Neil's having a good week, he gets more confident.
Yeah.
And you get little asides and you get little jokes. And I really liked watching Neil this week because he sort of came out of himself a bit more as it went.
I don't know what you mean. He was juggling it on a unicycle.
He was riding a unicycle by the end of the episode, so going, I'm the Star Baker!
No, he did not do it with that kind. He did it like, fucking producers.
Yeah.
Like, you actually made good.
Doesn't matter. You never say you can. It's like when actors write, I can ride a horse.
Yeah.
Never do that unless you can actually ride. Going home. Now, Laurent went home, and I'm wondering if it was...
Possibly casting back over the past 3 weeks.
Yeah, look, I think Rachel Koo sort of hinted at it a little bit, where she said, you know, we keep on waiting for Laurent to sort of improve and develop, but I'm wondering if this is all we're getting.
Yeah.
And that felt to me like the only thing that swung it. If I was judging it purely off this week,
yeah,
Galia serves it a raw loaf and served a showstopper that barely met a brief, and I don't actually think did, by the spirit of the brief. Yeah. Because most of the design, while amazingly pretty and wonderful, was dead dough.
Yeah, and it's just...
Look, that's not me saying that one was necessarily better than the other. They both had a bad week. We said that.
Exactly.
And, you know, one of them had to go, and I've said probably Laurent off the balance, but...
Look, you couldn't have made a bad decision choosing either one of them based on this week.
No.
So someone had to go, and I trust the judges with their decisions. So...
Nothing egregious in it.
No.
And look,
this wasn't like a person who was up for Star Baker being sent home.
Yes. But this was just a really tight thing. But I think now, the last 2 weeks in particular, Galia's probably on a bit of notice now of got a nail next week.
Yeah, and I'd like to see her kind of come into her own.
Her design stuff's really good.
Yeah, just getting that balance of style and substance
and timing. Yeah. And I think that might be part of it too. If especially with design, if you are so focused on design, the timing can get away because you're worried about the look and you've got to have everything on it. So maybe it's as simple as sort of paring back a bit of the design to bring a bit more of the robust flavour through.
Precisely, because this is not Instagram. This is not baking to create the perfect picture to show up there. You know, this is got to be substance and style.
It's rounded. It's got to be more rounded.
It's got to be rounded, yeah. You know.
So, obviously, Laurent goes home. Look, it's very rare that any one person makes the game card as themselves. So, Laurent's got that to his name. And also, if you've been following the pattern of our podcasts, I think you know what's going to come next. So I'm not going to tell you what it is, but it's pretty obvious, I think, if you follow the pattern of the podcast this year, what's coming up next. So look out for that towards the end of the week.
Yes.
And we will then be back as well next week.
We will.
So until then, I'm still Chris.
And I'm still Kristie.
We will catch you all later.
And don't forget to share this bloody podcast, yeah, on your socials. Thank you. Love you.